It'd be like 3, 2, and then 1. I believe we are back in Monday's grip again for another session. Welcome back to Mindful Nuggets, Monday, Monday, Monday.
We're back. It's another Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get us pulled up here on YouTube really quickly so that I can monitor our conversations here with everybody joining in with us.
And apologies, folks. We're running about 30 minutes late than normal. We had met challenges with technology, but that doesn't stop us from the mission. It may slow us down a little
No,
bit,
the devil really tried tonight, or the other side of this tried tonight anyway, but we conquered.
but we live in victory. That's why.
Absolutely.
So
Uh,
we don't yield to that stinking thinking about losing.
Right, I like it. Stinking thinking. That's right. That's right. Okay, everybody. So welcome back. We do apologize for being late, but as Mr. Williams said, we had some technical difficulties and some things were just beyond our control until we can get it back in control. Um,
Yeah, that's entirely another session about control and trust. We got to revisit
100%.
visit that sometime, and we got to realize the difference. We're not in control, but he is. We just trust him. So,
Absolutely. So I let everybody know out on Instagram and Facebook that we were running behind. So
thank
it'll
you
take
for
a
that.
few minutes to get this notification out to everybody. But hey, I'm actually half an hour earlier than I thought. So I said 8 o'clock Central, 9 on the East Coast. So guess what? If you join us here in a little bit, that's awesome too. We appreciate you being here. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. So, Mr. William, I was telling everybody out on Mindful Nuggets on Instagram and YouTube, or out on Facebook and Instagram, that last week, it wasn't that we didn't really care for last week's conversation. We just realized that there was a better way we could resonate with everyone regarding the conversation. I explained to everyone that we use the term and analogy with guardrails. And this week, we thought maybe we'd dive a little deeper into the conversation and really go into the garden and speak upon the garden. Because I let everybody know out there that when we started talking about the garden, we saw the viewership really start to climb. So
Uh,
obviously, at that point, we knew that they were no longer confused. So why don't
it,
you
it's
dive a little bit into that and clear everybody up?
Yeah, well, it's a little bit about word association. When we say guardrail, we think about guardrail on the roads, of course, and that's really there for our protection as well. But I think the idea of what stewardship is and its protectiveness to be able to be a good steward didn't quite convey the way we wanted it. And I think God probably expanded a little bit. Um, with my, at least Holy Spirit put it on me. It's like, I think we just need to go back and talk about this a little bit further because stewardship without any type of protection is not really a good stewardship. Because basically, what we were talking about last week to catch you up, is you can build the garden, you can plant the seeds, and you trust God to take care of the growth part of it. But where is the protection for people coming in and trampling your garden, or the varmints coming in and eating all of your plants down to the roots, basically, and you wouldn't have a garden? And then in the end of the season, when you're expecting a crop, it's not there, and then you go hungry. So they go kind of hand in hand. And we were talking about the tomato plant too last week. And I think because if we can get a microscopic look and then a macroscopic look at this, I think it'd make a little bit better sense. And we can then walk away from this knowing that we can be good stewards, but we need to have certain things in protection that fall in line with what God tells us to do and to protect our garden, not by our own devices. So, excuse me, I have got something that was stuck in my throat. We're doing good, Michelle.
We're doing all right. We're doing all right.
Yeah.
Again, last week, like we said, we are in the conversation of stewardship. We have stepped out of, we've been through the mindset, the identity, the authenticity, and so now we've moved into the stewardship side of this conversation. And last week, it just didn't really seem to resonate with the guardrails. So this week, we're going to dive deeper. We're going to go a little deeper, and we're going to reference into God's garden. And
right. Well, let's just start from the beginning. God started us in a garden.
100%. I mean, that was the whole thing, was that, he put Adam and Eve in the garden and said, don't eat that.
Well,
I'm assuming an apple, but we all assume that it was
it was a tree of knowledge,
right.
the knowledge of good and evil, and there was a very specific reason for that, because at the time we were in full trust with him, walking with him. He created the garden for heaven and earth to be in a place that he could walk with us in humanity, and we forsake that by giving up our dominion, basically, in that area because we were disobedient.
We did.
And that's another story to tell another time, how that came about. But the fact is, we broke trust, but the garden hadn't gone away. Our
No, the garden's never
sanctuary,
left. No,
our sanctuary and sacred place with God was withdrawn from us.
But there's a different relationship now that has taken place. Like you said,
Well,
there was trust, and we
right, but
broke that.
broke the trust, and that's the first disconnect from God that we had.
Right.
And there was consequences from that. But going back to the garden just very quickly, there's an enmity that's put in between us, the snake or serpent is really called the serpent in the Bible, and the woman, not the man, the woman, and the seeds of what they produce. And there would be a war. Enmity is a conflict, if you will, but it's actually the beginning of the war, the spiritual war in between man, or the spiritual part of Satan, and then God. And of course, God's victorious in this. But through the whole thing, even though there's still war going on, we still got to eat. And he knows that. And he didn't destroy us. We paid consequences, and it was called sin, and sin is equal to death. And we perish, and we will perish without him. The restoration part was with Christ. So we have a way back home to the Father. But we still have a responsibility to steward what he created and to begin with. We still got to work in the fields. We still need to be able to develop some sort of crop in a way to sustain us. And he does that. He gives us everything that we need as long as we abide with him to be able to produce that. But how do you steward that? And how does that become something that becomes abundant or scarce? So that's pretty much what we're going to talk about, that and how to protect it, more importantly, because I mean, Michelle, if I was down to my last tomato and all the apartments came around and ate most of it, and I have one left, do you think I'm going to be in the mindset to share that?
No.
Okay. But if I have a bunch of tomatoes, like, oh my gosh, I can't, this is going to go to waste. What's the attitude?
You do want to share because you don't want it to go to waste. You do want to provide or give or, freely offer
Right.
to others.
And so that blesses somebody else. And that creates a relationship as well, because that is food at the table, basically, that you bring to one another, or breaking a bread, and then you sit down and you build a relationship that builds trust. Well, the same thing applies to God. We're in alignment with him, and we're being stewards of his materials, if you will. The earth, for one, we're tilling it. We need to put nutrients in it, like manure. It has nitrogen and different minerals and things that requires, or is required for a good environment. For what?
For growth.
Well, right. So
flourishing, nourishing.
Yeah, right. But it's the best thing that we can prepare to put the seed in. It gives it the best chance. And being the seeds like to multiply, whether it's a crop of fruit, vegetables, or a crop of weeds. Both have a tendency to want to multiply, but we're not responsible for the growth of it other than nourishing it. This is stewardship, the nourishment, the watering, the weeding, and all that. And the seed's going to do what it's going to do. We're not in control of the growth part of it. We're responsible for the maintenance part of it, the maintaining the environment around so it can grow. So what happens when it grows?
A tomato
How tall?
plant?
Yeah, how tall does it get?
Oh gosh, it can get it can get taller than a good, 6 feet, 7. It depends. It really depends how well that nourished ground has been taken care of and how well you string them up in a nice caged area because they need to be in a cage
We'll,
type,
we'll get to the cage in a minute because
yeah.
that's really the guarding part of the gardening of it. But in this thing, are you not the plant's dependent on you to bring water a lot of times? Sometimes it rains, it brings water, but during the dry season, doesn't it depend on you?
Well, 100% it depends on me.
Does it depend on you to get the nutrients to the soil?
It does, because if I don't give it the good nutrition that it needs to the soil, it will not grow and it will not flourish.
Okay, and so that then you don't have the crop that you are expecting when you did the hard work
Right.
to till the ground and get the soil prepared and you plant the seed. A lot of us stop at that, by the way, in our lives. We do a lot of hard work, we plant the seed, and then we just leave the seed, and guess what? It gets overran a lot of times, and the weeds take it over, or the animals and things will eat it up, or they'll just wither away.
Well, we give up because we don't want to put all the effort into it.
We're part of it because we're not patient enough to see the process work.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
okay, so that's another element of it. But you're doing all this work and everything. It's dependent. We are dependent on God just as much as that garden is dependent on us.
Mm-hmm.
On it. And if we're not staying in alignment and being a good steward of His material, then the outcomes don't reflect that in our lives, whether it's a garden or anything else. We're not good stewards of it. Mm-hmm. We're also taking His provision and managing it in such a way that it provides the right nutrients in that ground for that to grow as well. So none of this is our resources, none of it is, but we're putting the work into the effort into out of hope and faith that this garden is going to grow. And so it depends on how we prepare our mindsets are for this. Are you going to get out there when it's due season to till the ground? We don't go out in January to till the ground, do we, Michelle?
Oh, no, no. Way too cold. Ground's too hard.
Okay.
I start all my stuff inside.
All right. So if we started to plant seeds at that point in time until the ground's not really prepared right?
No, it's not prepared. They'll die.
All right. So we're not really not we may be stewarding the ground and getting everything ready, but the seed's not protected, is it?
No.
Okay. And so when the seed's not protected, it leaves it to exposure. A good frost will kill a good crop in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're looking at that we have the materials, we know how to steward it, but we don't know how to protect it yet because we're not in due season yet. And we don't recognize that. And we don't recognize the proper order that the garden must grow and the patience is required to be able to harvest it. And the similarities of this is how we live. We all want things, right? We want to build things, but we want to do it under our own time. But it may not be season yet to receive that. It may not be season because we don't know how to protect. It may not be the season because we haven't learned to steward what we have yet. So if we go back and look at this, if we're properly learning this from the mentor, we understand that everything is his, doesn't belong to us, but we appreciate his provision giving to us, entrusted is the best word for this. That, okay, son, daughter, you got the materials. This is your sandbox. I've provided everything that you need. Now I've taught you that this is the order that you need to build a garden properly. I'm going to go away for a while. I'm going to entrust with you to be a good steward of this. And this is just not the garden. This is your relationships with your wife, your children, your friends, your business, anything. right? And he's entrusting it with you because you sat with him for a while and you met with him and you built a relationship. Now the trust follows, the responsibility follows, and we start using the materials in a proper way. But if the Father didn't tell us, i.e., the word in the Bible, the sequence of what we need to do, we're still not stewarding well. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Planting in January, and the seed gets killed. He comes back and asks what happened. Well, that's not what I taught you. But a lot of times we don't stop to go look at this book to find out the right order of things. And we figure that out eventually. And I'm very guilty of that, of doing it my way, which it evidently never aligned with his way. And a crop never developed. It's bad stewardship on my part because it is a lack of understanding, it is a lack of faith, lack of trust, a lack of a relationship to begin with. All right, now let's go into March. We're tilling up the ground, late Feb, early March. All right, and we're getting close to the last freeze. The last freeze is over, the major freeze, and so we get the ground tilled up, get the weeds out. We start putting manure in, get some more nitrogen dirt into the dirt, and get it all prepared. All right, so come, I don't know, when do you start? Mid-March with some crop?
No, no,
April?
because we typically can't get into the ground in Missouri until after May.
Okay, so you're at the higher region. All right, so
Yeah, I
so
mean,
it
if
would
there's some
it would
good
be
wetness, we can probably get some things in, but you're still taking a
all
chance.
right. Okay, but that, see, you know that. How?
Years and years of farming, not everybody knows that, right? But I mean, I use a farmer's almanac as well, but I mean, just put a seed in the ground in March and see where it goes. You'll figure it out. It's not going to grow. It's just
You will
not
figure
going
it
to.
out.
You will figure
But
that out. It's not going to grow.
but you had to align with somebody that taught you that in order to know it in the first place. Otherwise, you spent years figuring out how come this never grew to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, my grandmother, I mean,
Mhm.
that's where I learned how to farm was, my grandmother, my grandfather. My grandmother was the garden, my grandfather was the farm. So you just knew that you don't plant anything in the ground until that last frost is done.
Right. Which, for Tennessee is actually about April, somewhere around April, past April 1st, somewhere in there, we start really planting. Mid-April is really safe for us. But the thing is, if we're left to our own accord, we wouldn't know that. And this
Absolutely.
is, all right, so this is part of the alignment. And in order to learn first, in order to become a good steward, that's a must. And where do we align? Well, we start getting a relationship with the Father. We start delving into the work. He's teaching us how to plant a garden from the beginning in Genesis. Can we not apply that? Yes, we can. Because not only applies to the garden, have you not noticed gardens are all out through Jesus' teachings too? It's because it's something we understand. It's simple and it's easy to follow, but you got to be patient and you got to trust. The increase is left to him. How much crop you get is totally up to him because you're not in control of what? What are you not in control of?
I'm not in control of the growth. I'm not in control of, if it grows or if it doesn't grow, basically. I'm not in control of that. I can only do my part, put that seed in the ground, make sure it's got good nourished soil and everything it needs. At that point, it's all about him making sure that I have an abundance in crop or I don't.
Right. And then part of that's alignment. And sometimes it's also
Hmm.
correction too, because you may be going up a path and don't know it. But you're not in control of the weather.
No.
You're not in control of the seed. You didn't make the seed.
No, in fact, my garden actually didn't go very well this year, so I'm still trying to fight. I'm getting ready to plant my fall garden, and like you said, you don't have control of the weather, and that's exactly what happened. The weather because it started raining. It got into that rainy season, and literally just flipped my greenhouse upside down. So destroyed a lot of my crop.
A lot of farmers experience that as well.
Yeah.
And then you have a shortfall. But a lot of times we'll go blame God because of a shortfall, but maybe there's a reason we didn't see yet on it. Maybe there's something we need to learn. Maybe the crop was bad. Maybe the seed was bad.
I've asked
We
that
don't.
question this year.
Yeah.
What's
Maybe
the
the things
lesson
that
that
we
I was
plant
supposed to
aren't
learn?
good for us, and that's God's way of trying to protect you
Hmm.
from a garden that is full of something that it doesn't serve you well.
Highly possible.
Yeah, and in what we plant as humans, words are seeds,
Mm-hmm.
and they plant it in there, and those seeds will grow accordingly to what you plant, or don't grow, or grow something you didn't want, but you're not conscious of it. So just the similarity. That's what God's trying to convey with the garden is how we speak, how we align or we don't align, determine how your garden grows or doesn't grow. And so our lives are based on the garden. It always has been. So that's the relationship that God's trying to establish with, or work, or has established. He's not trying, he did establish. It's up to us to understand that establishment and be able to learn from it. So now, all right, let's say we got our crops growing. It's coming up. It's looking good right at the moment on it. Now we're starting to see that it's starting to bear fruit. The blooms are coming up. Tomato plants bloom first, and then you get this little small ball on it, and then it starts growing. Okay, when we come back out a week later, what happens?
Well, they're either bigger or they've been ate by deer or the raccoons got to them or again, but that's how well did you guard your garden?
Right. And so, well, the first thing we want to do when it's growing is actually we do a little bit beforehand. So we put a cage around the tomato plant. All right, well, that's one measure because what the fruit is, it's not the restricted tomato plant. You would think that, wouldn't you? Well, I don't want this thing sprawling all over the place. I want to put a cage around it to keep it from doing that. But that's not the purpose of the cage, is it?
No.
Okay. The purpose of the cage is what?
Well, the purpose of the cage is the way I use it is so it goes up the right way. It goes up and it stays in its aligned process of growing so that we have good, fertile, and nourished tomatoes. That's why I do it.
Well, I mean, is that not the same with humans?
Absolutely.
This is
It's what we should
well,
be doing.
this is like the guardrails in a sense. We're putting up the guardrails not for restriction, but protection, and also
Right.
for support.
Support, right.
All right. It's very easy for the plant to lean over with so much fruit. It damages the plant, kills off the plant.
Cucumbers is one of those. Try to string those up. They just go everywhere. I've got
Mm-hmm.
cucumbers everywhere. They're everywhere. I could not cage them up. I
Well,
tried.
some things are not meant to be caged, but sticking to the analogy, the cage is a support.
It is.
Cucumbers are
It would have been. Yes,
cucumbers are different now.
they are.
Yeah, we'll look in the sense that cucumbers can take over the garden, can it not?
No, they have. Yes, they have. The only
Okay,
reason why I've let them do
is
that
that
is
a
to
health? Is that a
protect.
health? That's not healthy, is it?
It is not healthy in some senses. I do have to scale it back. There are some moments I've had to scale it back. I'm only letting it go to a certain degree because it protects some other entities that I have growing there.
But
So
the only reason why you know that is because
I was taught, I was taught what I could companion, you
of
know,
what you can let go of
what
and
I
not
can
let
let
go
go
of.
of and what I can keep. Absolutely.
All
I
right,
was taught
but
that.
that's called protecting the garden, is it not?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, in the sense that if we're allowed to grow however we want to grow, we're going to run over a bunch of things that we shouldn't have run over to begin with, kill all things that actually might support us, or get so out of control, everything goes to rot.
Mm-hmm.
Just can't manage it.
Right.
All right. So again, that's another guardrail we need to put up. Cucumbers need to be trimmed back.
No,
Is
they
that
do.
not okay? Is that the same as pruning? Is that not the same as what God?
It's exactly what God does in pruning. Yeah, the pruning process is very real when it comes to this conversation. I've watched pruning take place this past year or these past 8 months. I've watched pruning take place, not just in my garden, but in my life.
All right. So pruning is, it's like clipping a nail too short. It hurts sometimes, but
Yeah.
pruning is not always comfortable. We prune roses back in order to get a better bloom out of it. And we trim cucumbers back. I'm sure cantaloupe and things like that, because cantaloupe and watermelons run into the corn and damage there, chokes them out. It will choke out anything that's low growing. You know, things, like carrots, broccoli, or things like that. So it's almost like kudzu to me in Tennessee. It just covers everything. It chokes it out. But you got to cut it back in order to let it breathe. But you got to know to cut it back.
All right.
And so if you're not taught that, and we're not taught how to steward the garden, guess what? The garden goes out of control, and there's a good chance we're not going to be able to eat this winter.
Highly possible we're not this winter.
So it's important that we understand that God provides. He is the branch. His Father, the Father Himself, is the vine dresser, the pruner. He knows when it's time to trim us back in order for the vine to be healthy. And when the vine's healthy, guess what? You're the branch in the vine. The branch is healthy. And when the branch is healthy, it can support good fruit and a lot of it.
So have you ever watched a cucumber grow? This makes me
Yeah.
think about the cucumber and how it grows, because the cucumber starts out with a branch, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what comes off the branch of a cucumber?
More
There's this
vines.
there's this little vine piece that comes off of that
It curlies.
cucumber,
Yeah, it curlies.
and
It curls.
it
Yeah,
just
it curls
but
everywhere.
it will attach to
It will wrap
anything.
around
Exactly.
exactly the
It
point.
will wrap and wrap and wrap, and it will
Mm-hmm.
just choke that other whatever it's wrapped to. It'll just choke it right off. And then that starts then killing other things in the process of what you're trying to grow. And we do this as humans.
Exactly the point. That's why God teaches us in the garden, because we can relate, because we are the garden.
Mhm.
We came from the dirt in the garden.
That's right.
All right.
100%.
All right. And we were taught how to garden, and we were entrusted with the garden, and we screwed it up. And we're still paying for that today. And we'll be paying for it tomorrow until Jesus comes back.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we will.
But life is still here. I go back to Genesis. God didn't destroy us because we were disobedient. He could have. We paid the consequence for it, but He gave us a resolution and a reconciliation to be able to come back to Him on through time. But He still expects us as children to be good stewards of His stuff. And He expects us to learn from Him so you can take care of certain things that need to be taken care of, that is done on this planet in the right order that glorifies Him. By showing good stewardship is one of them. Because when you show good stewardship, more than likely over time you'd be entrusted with a little. That first crop that came up, you learn how to manage it, you learn how to take care of it, you learn how to nourish it, and then you learn to walk through the process of it. Not to get it to perform, not to get it to produce, but to manage and steward it, protect it, and let God work in the garden the way it was supposed to work, and let Him be responsible for what it produces. You're there present, tending to the garden. That's your job, our job. We miss that. So okay, so we got this thing growing. We got it supported. We get fruit. Now we got bugs, animals, and things, leaves. If one is in scarcity and sees abundance, well, I'll give you a good example. And this was kind of a funny one. You have a hankering for corn, but you don't have any corn. Your next door neighbor's got a field of corn. Or even more, you're hungry and you got family to feed, and there's a corn in the field. Would you be apt to go over and get some corn in order to feed your family? Yeah, most likely.
Well, where I come from, you could take a whole thing of corn and they wouldn't know that it was missing. So
Well, where I come from too, you could get shot.
no, yeah, very much so. Very much so.
But
If you're
but
in the wrong area
you're
of the
in the wrong
cornfield.
field and wrong corn. But the
Yeah.
thing about it is, it's a risk, and it's taken from somebody that's being a good steward and being a thief and pulling it away.
Yeah, I mean, it will come back to get you. So
Well, here's I'm gonna lead to that because this is the funny part. most people don't know this. There's corn that is grain corn. Then there's corn that is meant for human consumption.
Uh-huh. There is.
And a lot of people don't know that. So they think they get a bunch of corn. But when they get hold of that corn, it's big, fat, and crunchy, and it
I
tastes
was
horrible.
gonna say,
It's
you'll
horse
know
food.
when you try to when you try to shuck that stuff.
Well, you try to eat it, it's like, that's not corn, but it is corn, but it's not made for you. It's made for animals. It's for
I
food
mean, but
grade.
you can tell the difference between,
You can once you shuck it,
once you
but
shuck, I mean, once you pull that open, you can see the difference in what's edible corn and what's not edible corn. So,
okay. But even more so, if you were a good steward and paid attention to the father and he's teaching you, corn that is edible is placed in rolls.
right.
Corn that is for animals, it's just scattered everywhere because there's a difference. They just come in and grind it all up
Right.
when it's scattered. When it's in rolls, they come back and they shuck it and they bring the corn to market for us to eat. But if you're not paying attention to it, you learn your lesson. You get some horrible corn, you'll possibly get shot or arrested.
Right.
So,
You're
it's
gonna
just a
get
bad,
something.
it's a bad thing. But it's basically attacks come to your garden, and it's not that God's not there to protect you. It's a reality of life. God will put up a wall around you to protect you. But here on this earth, you're going to have to protect yourself too. And you'll have to have armor of God with you on this planet. And there's certain things. Why would you carry a pistol? Go to Alaska for a second. I've seen a lot of people carry big knives, handguns, rifles. Why? It ain't to shoot the people.
I carry all the time. No matter where I go, I carry. I have since
Okay.
I was younger, I've carried. And that's to protect myself in case I need that.
Right. Well, if you go back to Nehemiah, one of the attacks that came were physical.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And so what we're saying this is a way to protect the garden without leaving the garden. You're stewarding the garden, but you're at the garden with protection. You're not coming off the wall in Nehemiah. He's building a wall, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
He built it in 51 days, and he had 5 separate attacks: mentally, distracted, physically, mockingly. Everyone's a different way, a different angle for Satan to come in to take what the harvest could be for your dinner table. And when that happens, well, you got to be prepared. You got to be able, for one, recognize and prepare for the attack that's coming. And if you don't know that, then you can get caught off guard. All right. So what do we do in the garden? How do we protect the garden, Michelle? What are some ways that we protect the garden?
One of the things I do is I companion plant. That's one way. That way then things that rabbits would touch would maybe not be something they would want to touch, or deer, may not want to touch. The other way is building up, I've got brick walls around my garden as well, so that it just goes into that one section of the garden. I've got the cages as well for my tomatoes. They're staked and they come right up and wrap up around those cages and draw up around that. Same with, my squash and cucumbers. I have stakes on those as well, so they can go right on up. So I can get good nourished food that, is
Okay.
ripe and ready.
So it's well protected,
Hmm.
well thought out in its protection.
Yeah, I'm very strategic.
Yeah. Marigolds, for example.
Yeah.
Why marigolds?
Rabbits don't like them. Squirrels don't like them.
Insects don't like them either. And
No, they
certain,
don't.
the reason
No,
why
they
it puts
don't.
off a odor that protects, like tomatoes or the other things like that. Um, and deer don't like strong scents.
No, they don't. That's why I put out the mint or the sage
Right.
or the basil, because
That really
they
has
don't
a
like
big
that.
aroma to it.
Yeah, they don't like it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so all right, so that's called discouragement.
Very much so.
Okay, so discouragement is a form of protection in your life.
Yeah.
Do you want people to come in your life to take things or ridicule you or anything like that? We got to understand that we need a protection. All right, so God's centered. We got the garden to take care. It is His provision, our provision, to be able to hand to other people and be a provision of blessing to others. That's our main job on it. But we don't have these attacks coming in. So discouragement. Well, we need to know that we have certain things that we can use in our life that discourage others from wanting to take things from us or to distract us from on it. And we got to learn and discern those different types of attacks that come at us. And the first thing always is you pray to God and get discernment of what that attack is, and then what you need to handle that attack. So if a physical thing that comes into your garden eats or something like that, one you got back in the amounts time you had a sword. In today's time, you still got a sword if you want to use one, more effective to be able to shoot it.
Right.
If or if we don't want to shoot, what do we have? We have a different scent that's distasteful to ward off and discourage these other things that come in our life.
I
Okay,
say my goal is to see to it that they just have a different scent that they don't care for, or
right.
or
So
a piece.
we're
Like I have
diverting.
more, I planted some things this year that encouraged more bees to be around the garden so it could pollinate and so forth. And unfortunately, my husband got stung by one yesterday.
Bees are necessary. I mean, sometimes they
They
sting,
are
but
necessary, and I planted some things that would help that bring them to the garden so that they could grow my garden a little better. And I might have brought just one too many, is all I'm saying.
you had a major pollination going on, didn't you?
I do, and they love my cucumbers, let me tell you. They have been
But
all over them pretty little flowers.
what those things are necessary and they do have a sting. So those are coexisting. It's just you don't stir up certain things.
Right.
and,
Yeah,
and
he
that's
probably should have
so.
been watering at that time. Yeah, his foot took a nice little stinger to it.
Ow. Well, if you try to step on a bee, I'd be mad too. I'd sting you.
He looked at me and he said, "What am I going to do to get this?" First, he got the stinger out, so there was that. But by the time he made it in the house, he was hobbling. He goes, "What am I going to do? This hurts so bad." So, what did I do? I took a
Mhm.
Band-Aid, put a little honey on it, slapped it right up there, and guess what? He was good in about 45 minutes.
So we're going back to the companion things too. You're not meant to carry the burden alone.
No.
Just like people, you're not meant to carry that burden alone to protect everything yourself. Nothing was meant for you to be independent. It was actually 100% dependence on God is where it's the posture we need to be in. And when we're 100% dependent on God, that means we come to a surrendering point in our life and realize we've been carrying things through a life that are never meant to be carried. Nehemiah built that wall. He didn't build it by himself.
Oh
He had
no,
families
he had
there.
everybody helping him.
He had the workers there. He had families. He had support, children, the whole thing, the whole economy to scale, if you will, of an ecosystem going on right there.
But he didn't just get attacked once. He was being
No, no,
attacked from all sides of
he
all
got attacked multiple
entities.
times, 5 different
Yeah.
ways. All right, one of them was physical. That's why he carried a sword. They carried swords on them,
Yeah, they did.
and they still had conversation. They were still talking. All right, that's what I'm talking about: the gun, the sword, the knife, the snares. Okay, snares are another thing. It won't kill them, but it will snare them. It will harm them on it. And a lot of times, that's the enemy's trying to snare you too. And so you got to be aware of those type of attacks that you might step in and get snared into something that you didn't mean to get snared into because you got distracted and you weren't looking. All right. Another invite is, hey, if somebody wants to destroy the garden without a shot fired, if you will, why don't you come over this week and spend some time with me? I got some new ideas I like to present. I think we may be able to do a joint venture on this garden. And all of a sudden you're ending up over there a lot of time. Next thing you know, you're neglecting the garden, and the garden suffering. And the intent
Mhm.
of the other side was to get you away from the garden, not to build anything purposeful in your life. Have you ever had that happen in your life,
I'm
in
sure many
relationship?
people have.
It never went anywhere because it was never meant to go anywhere. It was meant to extract information from you. It was to distract you from the mission that God put you on in order for it to never come to fruition. Things like that. These are all protecting. Stewardship and protection are still going hand in hand here. And I hope and I pray that I'm getting the point across a little bit better tonight than I was last Monday.
Definitely a
Oh,
little more cohesive and comprehensible for sure than
okay.
last week. I think they were just a little confused last week, but I definitely know that tonight they've been able to understand how this works, why it works, and how they're living it. They're living this each and every day. So which direction do you want to be in? You know, the garden that grows and flourishes and has, the alignment that you need to have in your life, or would you like to continue or be on the other side of that garden where you're struggling, you're not getting the water, you're not getting the good nourishment, you're not getting the support that you need? Which side would you like to be on, I guess is the question.
It's always a choice. And it's really what you commit your life to. And if it's aligned, if it's not aligned with God, I encourage you to be put in alignment with God. He'll take care of you. Life's never going to be easy. You're always going to be attacked in some way or some fashion. And there's going to be some serious challenges in your life. And that's just called living. Comfort's not a thing. If you don't live in comfort, it's really you're going to decay. You'll never grow. The garden will never grow. There'll just be a big garden of weeds on it. It requires intentional living. What another tactic is fear. We're going to be short on grain this year. We don't have enough seed to go around. This is an attack that happens every day. Scarcity,
Fear.
fear, shortage of gasoline, for example, oil being attacked. People's reactions, what? Market tells you. They don't like fear, doesn't like threats. Prices go through the roof. Anticipation of what? A bad outcome. People are afraid they won't be able to get places or afford to be able to drive because it creates a chain reaction. Fear is like fire. It spreads quickly until you stomp it out. Realize that God is the one of provision, not the world. No, we have maybe a shortage on seeds. The good steward would have been preparing for the season that when that came by providing abundance and storing it back 10 to 20% each year. Joseph's a good story to read about that in Egypt, how the plagues were avoided in Egypt by the Pharaoh because Pharaoh put Joseph in charge. And he stewarded it well. He protected the grain, kept people from coming in and using it during the good times. Well, we got plenty. Let's bake some extra. Let's throw some more parties. When the winter comes around, you look in your cupboard and it's gone. And you wonder what happened. So that's also protecting as well.
Absolutely. All
So
right. Well, we have come into our hour almost of even though we came in late, we've actually almost hit an hour. I'm kind of surprised.
it goes
It
extremely.
goes really quickly here. I mean, we're back to Monday, so there's that. I mean, and that's another thing I want to bring up tonight. We didn't talk about that, Mr. William. We are 8 months almost. Well, this is the
We're almost
last
ready to give
week.
birth.
This is the last week of July, okay? And we've been talking all year long in a growth mindset. We started at the very beginning of who are you? What are you working on? What are you looking to accomplish? And then tonight we're talking about how are you stewarding that? How are you growing that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're gonna
Who
end
would,
the year, we're gonna end the year with, guess what? It's December and we're here. And what did you accomplish this year? I'm asking now. Where
see,
was the goals that you set in place in January? Where are those goals today?
all right. Well, that's a great question. A gardener should ask himself, what have I done? What actions have I committed to in
Right,
order to keep the garden growing? That's intentional. It's intentional living. And that's what God wants from us, to live intentionally and have a relationship with him. It goes from a flow. It comes relationship first
right.
before responsibility. God didn't throw anything on your back if you don't have a relationship with him first. It, because trust has to be established somewhere in between all that.
Does
And if you notice, it starts in the garden and it ends at the table every time.
always.
So you get your assignment when you have a relationship. Then if when you're faithful, not if, but when you're faithful, if you're wise, you'll start seeing that relationship flourish, just like your
Mhm.
garden with God. And then what happens next when you learn, like Michelle has, to grow a garden? She's on a different mission now with connecting other gardens to provide other food for other people that will nourish them. She's building a legacy. But it all started at the garden and had to learn how to abide with him in the garden in order to get what she was able to get in these days. Then you start seeing a lot more opportunities because the growth has occurred, not just in the garden, but in your mind and your heart. The relationship is expanded. Trust is, well, I call it the speed of trust. Things move a heck of a lot faster when trust is in the middle of it. I don't need all the legal part. It's Michelle. If we trust each other, we got each other back. We don't need all that stuff. We don't need all the burden of things that slow you down. Go through all the mechanics and well, I don't trust you, so we need this, we need that document, we need this document. We don't live like that. It's because we trust God. Because we trust God, we have that trust between us. See,
And we've been
that's
in those
what
positions before, where we've had to take a look at the position that we were in as to how, if that was how we were going to steward this relationship
exactly.
and continue to move forward. We know how we function, we know who we are, and that's the relationship that we've built. It's
In the
the
right order.
in and we have done it in the right order, and we continue to grow and build upon that. And that's because we are in alignment with his word.
Mhm.
And, you know,
Exactly. So go back to the beginning. In the garden,
right,
we consumed something that was forbidden. The first breaking of trust. And when you break trust, what's the other side of trust?
fear.
Exactly. And when fear starts growing in your garden, your fruits are to become bitter or non-existent on it. So the best, healthiest relationship you can have in your life is to get in alignment with the person that created you in the first place, who knows your story before you know your story.
And if you're building a
In
garden, make sure you got the support you need as well, because if you don't have the support you need,
the soil. Mm-hmm.
exactly. Well, and it's not just the soil, but the support in those to help you along the
The
way of the path
community.
as well. If you don't have that community, you don't have that support, that's where your garden starts to really struggle. And
What
so
can I,
make sure you're putting yourself in those places. If you listen to God, he'll tell you where you need to be. He will show you the path.
you can't do all things by yourself.
No, we were not
But through
meant to do things by ourselves.
no, but through Christ we can. All things are
Absolutely.
possible through Christ, not by self. And if you do it all by self, guess what? Your garden's gonna suffer,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not gonna eat well. I kind
No,
of like to eat well. That's a prerequisite. So I make sure I'm
I was gonna
aligned
say,
with the person, the God that provides all things. So I'm very interested in eating good. I don't have to have a bunch of things, but I like to eat.
yep. Same here. I like to have all the nourishment I can get. All the support I can get too. All right,
All right.
everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight
Yep.
here at Mindful Nuggets. We hope and we pray that last week's conversation to this week's conversation was a little more clearer for you and that you were able to resonate with this conversation tonight a little better than last week. So you have both capabilities of watching both of those still. We're not going to take down last week's Mindful
No,
Nuggets podcast. We're going to leave it up. It still resonates with some people. And this week you have a little deeper look into that conversation. But I want you to ask yourself, where are you at versus where you started January 1 of 26 to today, the 28th of July? You are almost 7 months into the year. What are you stewarding? Are you protecting? Are you building? Are you growing? Are you doing those things? Are you in alignment?
if
If
I
you're
could
not,
leave
reach out.
an order of a methodology, if you will, you can write this down. I'll go a little slow. It'll help you if you will. Start trying to remember it on the podcast, but we encourage you to come back and listen over and over again. Really do. We appreciate it if you would, and subscribe to this channel. It would be a blessing if you would, so we can get this word out to more people. It's called the steward's response. So the very first thing is seek him. Always pray. All right. Inspect what's going on around you. Start asking questions. Get curious. If it's right, start building upon it. When you start building upon it, guard it. Not everything's meant to be shared. Not yet. All right? You don't want to let everything be known. Social media is good about that, but a lot of times you'll come to early attacks that squash out the garden before it even gets going. Stay focused. Intentional living. There's a purpose for your life, and you should live it out that way. We'll talk about time equity and infusion and what you do with time in another session. Discernment's huge. Do you have a formula to use how to discern? Here's an easy one to remember. All roads lead back to the Father. And if you're not on a road that doesn't lead back to the Father, you're most likely on the wrong road. So you might want to look at that real closely. You might want to switch roads that you're on. Preserve. Why do you want to preserve something? So it continues to grow and be fruitful. You preserve it by faithfulness and stewardship. And the biggest thing is finish what you started. If you don't build the garden, finish it. Enjoy the fruits. The parable of the talents, one of the things that really struck me the most in reading it is the master shared in joy with what was gained between the master and the steward. That's the heart of a father. He wants to share it with you and rejoice and be a part, and you're a part of him. Finish it so you can enjoy that with him. With that, we'll leave you for another week, and we'll see you Thursday at our devotional if you'd like to join us. We love you. We encourage you to stay tuned. There's more good stuff coming up, more good points, and more good journeys to go on Mindful Nuggets. We love you, and we're praying for you.
Have a great night, everyone. Hit that subscribe button. We'll see you back next week, Monday night, 7 p.m. Central.